Hello my DGens and welcome to the era of King Caesar. Today, let's talk about how to actually play our king and what to look out for, because there are lots of things that you're going to be tempted to do that you shouldn't, or you're going to be like building her with like some kind of weird stuff, or like rotations and certain moves that I would highly recommend against, stuff like that. It's just a waste of resources, etc. And so I am going to assume that you are familiar with Caesar and all of her different skills, but if you are not, then head over to this video over here and come back when you are familiar. So today I am going to cover off all of these things over here. And so let's start off with my thoughts on the king herself. The conclusion that I've come to about Caesar is that from a meta point of view, the value that she brings to your account is utterly ridiculous. And out of all of the characters released so far, limited and permanent, she is the character that is closest to what I would call an actual must pull. Again, as always, pull for your favorite waifu, number one waifu. I'm pulling for Bernice over Caesar, but if you want value, it is actually going to be Caesar 100%. And the main reason is because she can cover not only one, but two roles, right? She can act as both the stunner or the support, or both. And I'm not talking like sub stunner or sub support where it's kind of like secondary. She is the real deal in both roles. So I'm talking like Ellen, Caesar, Sokaku, and then maybe we can replace out the Sokaku with Lycone instead. In this case, our Caesar would be the support. I'm talking Jane Doe, Seth, Caesar, or maybe your Seth isn't built, and so we go Caesar, Piper. Piper is simply the core passive slave, and so it's just Jane, main field DPS. We've got Caesar coming in with the stuns and shield and attack buffs and everything. We've got a Juyuan team looking like this, which I can actually confirm that team is actually significantly better than this one over here. I shaved off like 40 seconds by putting in Qingyi instead of Nicole. It's just ridiculous how versatile Caesar actually is. Alright, and so in that case, let me start by talking about some of the nuances in her skills. And so coming all the way down to her core passive, we do a few different things: EX special attack, chain attack, blah, blah, blah. And the result is we get a shield that gives attack. However, the most important part of this sentence is this reference to base attack over here. So before we go anywhere else, let me explain to you what base attack is. Because we've come across like all of these different terms. For example, Seth scales on initial attack. And then as most of you know, we've got the famous Starlight engine, which we refer to as combat attack. And so now with Caesar's release, we have this reference to base impact. And if you have played other MiHoYo games, if you've played a lot of gacha games, your first instinct is going to be like, oh, base impact is going to be our character's internal natural impact plus the W engine. So I'm referring to like the impact that she gets from this, base impact increased by 6, plus the amount of impact that you get from your W engine. So in this case, impact plus 18%. In the case of Zenless Zone 0, that is not correct. Base impact is actually just this number over here, the 152, which is affected by these discs as well as the W engine. And so I have absolutely confirmed this by equipping stuff and calculating the amount of damage my shield can take before it breaks, and then going out and actually getting it to break. Therefore, in terms of our stance switch, so I'm talking about this passive all the way down here, this guy does not affect our shield at all. The plus 20% impact, this is combat impact. And so combat impact takes the initial impact, the one that's in our stat screen, and then multiplies it by the combat effect. 172 multiplied by 20% gives us plus 35. And this stance switch buff is what makes her days so freaking hard. All right, and so all of that out of the way, let's talk about 100% buff uptime, which you should be able to maintain if you play correctly. All right, and so here is the golden combo. I'm about to show you with the butcher so that you can see the debuff. All it is defensive assist into Caesar, assist follow up with skill button, and then press the skill button one more time. And this move buffs everything. Let me just show you guys. All right, and so I'm gonna look for the golden flash, which he freaking does all the time. Boom, and then E, and then E one more time. That's it. So if I come over to the detailed stats, you can see 1k attack. That means we've got the shield up. And when I go back into the battle, you're going to see the boss has the debuff on the top right-hand corner over here. Now, on top of all of that though, what isn't shown here is actually going over to Caesar's equipment. We have the prototype, which isn't available. It's actually the prototype punk 4-piece bonus set. So defensive assist, we're going to get the 15% increased damage lasting 10 seconds. Now, as you guys know, I freaking wish that Hoyo would change it so that we can see all of the buffs. But just trust me, that combo that we just did, it gets you everything. Let me do it again. I'm going to go back to boom, Caesar, and then E, and then E again. And so debuff again, we've got the shield up, and trust me, that plus 15% bonus is there from the prototype thing. So getting the shield as well as that debuff over here is absolutely fantastic, as well as the set effect from Proto Punk. However, there is a second reason why I insist on using defensive assists with Caesar. And so let's do it again. And what you're going to see is if I come to effect details, we've got the stance switch. And so this stance switch is massive. Increase impact by 20%, as you can see, coming back over here, 174 plus 35. And what this means is that this assist that I'm doing right now has massive days multipliers. Now, the other answer to trying to maintain 100% buff uptime is to actually go into Caesar and use her perfect parry. So I'm talking about that blue glow there. So timing the E right on time. However, the reason that I don't recommend this one, and I'm not saying it's bad, right? But just doing the perfect parry over there, it doesn't actually get you the Proto Punk buff. And on top of that, using the E parry means that you're probably spending more time in Caesar, which you don't want, because once you have this golden shield, you really want to go back into Ellen and just go to town on the boss, right? Or you want to go back into your DPS and just lay waste to them. Now, there is one exception, and that is going to be Ju Yuan, and your Ju Yuan absolutely wants your Caesar to stay on the field to get them stunned as fast as possible, so Ju Yuan can access the stun window. But for the vast majority of the cast, I would again recommend just hitting those defensive assists just like that. Alright, and so that's kind of like the main big combos. Now I want to talk about like very common scenarios that happen. So for example, maybe your shield runs out before the debuff runs out, or your debuff runs out before the shield runs out. And so here we've got one of those cases. I've got the shield up, but I don't have the debuff on the boss. And so all you want to do here is you just want to use the basic attack. The whole basic attack, as you can see, bro is debuffed. I still have my shield. I'm not wasting time. And so let me get in the second scenario. I'm about to lose my shield and bro is still debuffed, right? So I don't have a shield, bro is debuffed. And so typically what you want to do here is just swap into Caesar and then swap back out. So hopefully you guys can see what I did. I went in, I swap into Caesar, and then I swap back out. To get the shield, all you need to do is tap E when you have energy. And then lastly, on top of these two, remember that you just need to hit those parries with somebody else if you're not hitting them with Caesar to make sure that you're getting the Proto Punk buff. So I'm talking like even hitting it with your Ellen over here, that is going to give us the Proto Punk buff. But generally speaking, you shouldn't need to do like any of these things. Just play normally, hit the defensive assists, and you should have like 100% uptime on all of those different things. All right, and so there is one other thing that I need to talk about, and it's about this whole basic attack move that I talked about. It's this one right here. I think it's called Dead End. And so assuming that you're able to maintain 100% uptime on the debuff and your buffs and all of that, you should actually never use this thing for debuffing. And so therefore, the only time you should ever be using the whole basic attack, this one, is actually when you want to gather mobs, right? Because if you guys haven't figured it out by now, this thing actually has a vacuum, right? It actually pulls mobs in. However, the damage and the days on this thing is actually absolutely dog shit. So if I open up the ratios and I come down all the way to Dead End, 252, 140 for damage and days respectively. Like, even normal attacking is probably going to actually get you more value than using this kind of spin thing. So this thing is actually gigabait. It is really nice to use, but from a damage perspective, it's actually freaking crap. Now, the other reason as to why you can't spam this thing is because it is going to use up all of your defensive assist points, right? And defensive assist points is probably what I would call Caesar's most important resource. On top of that, don't forget that the Proto Punk buff, the 4-piece set, is dependent on using those ones as well. So it's just so important that you don't freaking spam this shield thing. You'd rather be using it for getting the debuffs, your own buff, but also the massive amount of days. All right, and so the next thing I want to talk about is chain attacks, which is really interesting. I would say that the summary of it is that you should pretty much never need to chain attack with your Caesar, because the chain attack only gives a shield. Therefore, the only situation in which you want to chain attack with Caesar is if you don't have a shield up already. And so what you will want to do is you will want to use Caesar first in the chain so that everyone gets the shield, which gives you your 1k attack buff, so that all your characters that are doing the chain attacks after that can just deal big damage. If you are playing your Caesar correctly, you should be able to maintain both the shield and the debuff 100% of the time. Otherwise, instead of taking the chain attack with Caesar, you could actually just cancel it and spend more time in your DPS. So I'm just going to put bro into stun, and then we're going to go with Ju Yuan, and then we're just going to cancel because I don't want to use either the Caesar or the Qingyi, right? I can spend more time in my actual DPS, like blowing them the hell up. All right, and so I want to talk about Caesar's W engine next. And this is kind of like a similar dilemma to Seth, where we want impact, but there is no impact in the defensive ones. Now, the difference between Caesar and Seth is that Seth wants attack, but Caesar, she wants impact instead. Attack on Seth, I don't really give a shit about. Like, I don't really care if he does like, 10 more damage. But for Caesar, impact is absolutely massive when we're trying to stun the shit out of the enemy, right? I don't give a shit about their shields, right? You should be dodging like rich people dodging taxes, right? What you should care about though is this impact stat so that she can stun better. Now, the shield getting bigger is going to be like a nice side effect, right? Like we do get big scaling, but like I don't give a shit about it. You shouldn't either. And so therefore, if you don't have her signature, come over to the agent specialties. We're looking for stuns, and then we're going to grab one of these ones over here. As long as it has impact, it's all good. It's definitely not Steam Oven. It's going to be either the Fossil or it's going to be the Ambi one. And so whilst we're here, let's talk a little bit about investment priority because we're all freaking provo. For the core skill, we really want to get up to E, but we really don't care about F because again, this is just giving us more shield. We don't care. In terms of her skills, we're looking at top priority, the assist, and then special attack and basic attack, I would say are probably even. After that would be dodge, and then lowest priority at the very bottom is going to be your chain attack. I'm hoping that you guys can see why after that whole playstyle with the defensive assists and the assist follow-ups. And for equipment, the only important things are probably the 4-piece Protopunk, impact on your disc 6, as well as Shockstar Disco. In terms of the stats, nothing else really matters. I personally run her like a DPS. We got the physical damage bonus, we got the crit rate with the crit damage, because my take on this game is that the only way to play is to play like a glass cannon. Now, what I do want to talk about last is the reason why I just don't really care about her shield. And the reason is because in practice, in endgame, bosses are going to be chunking you for like 700 damage, 1000 damage, 1400 damage, and your shield is going to be like 3 or 4k. Your shield is actually going to get dunzoed super fast if you can't dodge. But the other reason is because your shield gets regenerated so freaking fast if you play her right that it actually just doesn't matter. As long as you play properly, it will always be up and refreshing. So that's why I don't care about like the shield strength, the shield value of your Caesar, of your Seth, of your Ben. The only thing that matters is you need to keep the shield up. That's it. So I'm pretty sure that's it for Caesar today. I know that we covered off a lot today, but the TLDR, if you guys need it, is get the defensive assists with Caesar, get it maybe every 10 seconds would be nice, and everything will have 100% uptime. All right, that being said, let me know if I did get anything wrong in this video, or if there was something that I didn't mention that you guys are like, oh, wait, Caesar actually does this thing really cool. Let us know down in the comments below. Or if you even just like actually liked the video, then I would appreciate that. Just tell me that you like me, man. Just come on. But otherwise, this is going to be the end of the video. Good luck to you, Caesar enjoyers. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.